Hi and welcome, everybody. Might just take a little bit of time to get in, but in the meantime, I can say a warm welcome to everybody. I can see they're logging in. We're up at 47 right now, 50. And while people are getting in, we just give them just 1 minute. I can see they're still logging in. Technology takes its time. Yeah, right. So welcome to this webinar with Alicia Hullinger and Renee Robertson, arranged by ICF Denmark during the International Coaching Week 2021. This is actually a joint venture, and I will get back to you at the end of this webinar. So please stay with us till the end. And this is a Nordic project where the Nordic chapters have gone together and sharing webinars with each other for these 1 week of celebration of coaching. And especially for today, I just want to make a quick introduction, and then I will leave the word over to Alicia and Renee. My name is Jesper Christiansen. I'm a Director of Professional Development for ICF Denmark chapter. I'm your host this evening, and together with Christer Ekström, as you see on the picture as well, is my co-host. He's an executive coach, a member of ICF Denmark, an accredited coach. And together with us, we have Alicia Hullinger, who's the Vice President of ICF Thought Leadership Institute. And Alicia actually has a background as a sociologist and is leading the building of a global hub for knowledge for human development and coaching for social well-being. And she can add some words to that as well. She knows a lot more than I do, what that role actually means. Also, we have Renee Robertson, who is the Vice President for ICF Coaching in Organizations. And Renee is actually a veteran corporate executive. Is it correct? I can say that. Who has been around global organizations regarding sales, marketing, human resource, and talent management. So really some experienced women we have here tonight. And I'm really, really looking forward to get inspired. And I'm sure you also are looking forward to get inspired for the next around 1 hour. And depending on how many questions there will be at the end, 1.5 hours maybe. But before we start, I would very much like you all to just write quickly in the chat where you're from, what country are you logging into, and if it's possible, just who are you? What are you working with in your workday? Sweden, Denmark is represented. We have leadership coach, people development coach from Finland. We have Denmark, Sweden. Oh, we have Dubai, executive coaching. Finland, we have New York, USA represented. Norway, of course. So I don't know, Alicia and Renee, do you have a chance to follow and get a little bit of an idea what kind of people who are here?
Yeah, that's terrific.
That's great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And it's great to be here to celebrate with the Nordic chapters this week on International Coaching Week. And it's also great to have this collaboration virtually with you all. So, this is when digital transformation really shines, because we're able to bring all of these people together. So look forward to the questions and the conversation. And we're hoping that you will be able to walk away with some insights and inspiration with what you're working on and where you're looking to go. So These are our objectives. These are the high-level things that we'll be covering today, the megatrends, and looking at roles of coaching in the future of work. So we're really looking specifically at the future of work and coaching today. So before we get started, we have a few polls that we want to just get the audience engaged in to get a better understanding of what your thoughts are on the future as we think about the future of work. So for our first poll, and I know that we have the polling option on, so you should be able to answer this in the poll that Jesper is going to pull up for us. So this is our first question: which of the following best describes the amount of change employers should expect in the future of work? So go ahead and enter your response: no change, moderate change, or massive change. Looks pretty clear that people are thinking massive change is really going to describe the future of work, with 74%, and nobody responded no change because, you know, I think we recognize that change is part of life. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next
I'll
poll.
just show you the poll, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So
we'll go to the next question. So thinking about it from the employee's perspective, which of the following best describes the scope of changes the future of work will bring for employees over the next 5 years? Looks like people are answering about the same, about 24% moderate change and 75% massive change. So there are the results. And then the next question is from a coach's perspective. So thinking about the next 5 years and the future of work, what type of change will it bring for coaches? This is slightly different. We're at about 50-50. We're right on the nose with 50-50, with about 28 saying massive change and 28 saying moderate change. So that's interesting. And as we go through the presentation today, I wonder if that answer will be slightly different. Okay, so thinking about the changes on the horizon, how are you feeling about it? Hopeful, anxious, fearful, or not sure? Okay, so the majority of the participants are hopeful, and you have a few that are anxious and a few that are not sure. So hopefully we can bring a positive perspective to the changes that we're seeing ahead. Okay. So, thinking about the changes ahead and the global mega trends that are essentially influencing our day-to-day lives, we can really look at these mega trends as a way to inform our decisions and how we want to go about creating the best possible future. So these are some of the major global megatrends that are going to have an impact on the future of work and essentially our day-to-day lives, including work. So we're seeing accelerating climate change. We've all seen the UN's IPCC report, and they really have the science to back up that global warming is happening as we see higher temperatures and sea levels rising. And so, as we think about what that means, we're seeing natural disasters become more frequent, more deadly, and more destructive. So this is going to have an increasing impact on human and financial costs. So that is something to keep in mind and consider as we make decisions on the future of work. Changing demographics, we're seeing increasing longevity, which means that there's going to be workers are going to be staying longer in the workplace. We're also seeing increasing aging population across the world, which means that there's going to be an increasing greater demand or need for care work with an increasing aging population. We're seeing a growing urban middle class globally. So that means demands, needs, and interests are going to change and have an impact on products and services and consumption and production habits. Increasing urbanization, meaning people are going to be more likely in urban centers. And so that's going to have an impact on where people are located, transportation, transportation of goods and services, and just the patterns of urbanization and what that means for work. Then we're also seeing some of the international migration flows with changing demographics from, political upheavals or the increasing climate change with sea levels rising. Migration is definitely going to be a trend that we need to keep an eye on, because that means individuals, organizations, communities are going to need to integrate people that are coming from other places, and there's going to be an impact on organizations in that sense. So changing demographics is something to definitely keep in mind. And then worker demands, as we're seeing millennials and the younger generations come into the workforce, demands are shifting where workers are really looking for values-based organizations. So when thinking about the type of job that they're looking for, the type of employer that they're looking for, they're wanting an organization that has some type of value, is contributing to the greater good, if you will. So they're also expecting that employers are going to not only provide professional development opportunities for them, but they're also expecting employers to really provide whole person development opportunities. So thinking not just about professional development, but more of that well-being piece, and thinking about all of the different facets that go into a worker's life that is really getting at the worker-life balance. So those are some of the demands that are going to really influence the future of work. And this is, as these demands are shifting, we're also seeing a rise in the gig economy as independent workers are really going after short-term commitments because they're looking for more flexibility, temporary work, or freelance work. So the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Airbnbs of the world, Amazon freelance, the Flex, Fiverr are just some of the organizations that have really spurred up because of these different worker needs for flexibility. And then clearly the digital transformation, as we've seen, especially through the global pandemic, how that has really accelerated. And the digital transformation essentially is all about automation, artificial intelligence, and analytics. So thinking about automation and how how manual, repetitive, and mundane tasks are becoming more automated. And then artificial intelligence and how that can augment human decision-making. And then there's so much data that is out there. So using that data to our advantage to inform human decision-making. So digital transformation really has an opportunity to augment work. And it's really up to us to think about how these trends can really shift the future of work in a way that works for us, for people and planet. So these are just some of the global mega trends that are going to be important to consider when thinking about creating the best possible future in the future of work and all the different types of futures. And then we all are still going through the global pandemic, and this has very much accelerated and intensified these trends and very much impacting the future of work as well. So these trends are here to stay, and we can really look at these major trends and think about, you know, how can we shift and lean into a future of work that is going to be meaningful. So we're seeing remote work and virtual meetings are going to likely continue. Again, digital transformation, automation, artificial intelligence, and analytics, that's here to stay and is likely to continue. And then a mix of occupations. We're going to see a change up in occupations, and that's going to have a shift in implications as far as what jobs are available. And, you know, thinking about the global pandemic, the areas that are going to be most disrupted when it comes to occupations are jobs that have physical proximity. So any jobs with the highest physical proximity or frequent interaction are most likely going to be disrupted. So the global pandemic has brought on major changes in consumer and business behavior, with restaurants going online and doing delivery or essentially putting in practices in place to accommodate the changes from the global pandemic. So that has been one industry that has had major changes that we have seen with the global pandemic. And so what does this mean for work, and how are these trends going to impact work? So again, there's going to be an increasing in jobs in some areas and a decrease in jobs in other areas. And, you know, the good news is that the World Economic Forum estimates that artificial intelligence would actually create a net total of 97 million jobs by 2025. So we can really think about the shift and the opportunities that these transformations can make. And again, you know, how can we put these transformations to work for us to create the best possible future? And with these changes in jobs that are available, with increasing jobs in some sectors and decreasing jobs in other sectors, that's going to require the workforce to reskill and upskill. So the workforce is going to need to really learn new skills and be able to make the changes as the shifts in jobs in quality of jobs and quantity of jobs are taking place. And this means career transformation. So workers are going to continually need to transform their career. So, also workers are going into the workforce and not staying in a career as long as generations of past. So workers are going into a career and automatically changing every 5 years, as opposed to generations of the past that would go into the workforce and stay in the same career until retirement. So, there's that shift in just how workers are transforming their careers, but as also the jobs change and the industries change, there's going to just be a need to for workers and for employers to go through that reskilling and upskilling process. And then again, the work environment is going to transform. As we all know, the global pandemic has brought on remote work. And so workers have had to really basically turn their home space into office space. And so offices are going to look very different and going to need to transform to be able to adapt to the hybrid model as we shift into a more hybrid model of work with some workers working remote, some workers working remote and in the office, and then other workers who are working in the office. And some jobs just are going to require work in the office, whereas other jobs we've been learning don't require an office. So that's going to transform our workspace. And so, thinking about these transformations, and I think the majority of us here coming from a hopeful perspective is in line with how I think about these transformations, is that it's really an opportunity for us to deepen our humanity. If we think about digital transformation, again, how can we put automation, artificial intelligence, and analytics to work for us to create the best possible future? And there's just going to be some things that are core human abilities and meta skills that AI is not going to be able to replace. So this is really where I think coaching has an opportunity to come in, because these are the type of skills that really contribute to the learning and growing development of an individual, an organization, or a team. So thinking about what really is at the heart of human abilities are, thinking about empathy, imagination, creativity, and emotional intelligence. So if we have automation that enables us to free up time that we're not doing some of those mundane, repetitive, manual tasks, that really frees us up to focus on more creativity. And that is really, again, at the essence, at the heart of human abilities. So imagine a workplace where there's more space to have this creativity, and how that will really contribute in turn to innovation. So freeing up us from those mundane tasks really provides an opportunity to think about work in a new way. And these type of abilities and skills are, we're still going to really need logical thinking, reasoning, curiosity, open-mindedness, collaboration, leadership, and systems thinking. And again, this is where coaching is a great tool to build the skills in this area, with the coaching mindset being open and flexible and curious is really what coaching is all about, and has an opportunity to contribute to the need to deepen our humanity, if you will, and our core human abilities. And so I think, when thinking about these transformations, it's really important to think about the governance frameworks that we're going to need in place, the policies, processes, and standards. So again, that is going to require human skills for reasoning, logical thinking, making sure that we're also thinking about artificial intelligence in a responsible way. So thinking about artificial intelligence and the need for fairness, accountability, safety, transparency are just things that is going to require humans to show up and make those type of decisions in order to maximize benefits while managing the potential risks in order for us to be able to work holistically with people and planet. So these core human abilities and meta skills are going to be more important than ever as we think about the transformations on the horizon. So thinking about some of these mega trends and the transformations that are really going to have an impact on the future of work, let's open it up for some more polls and get your thoughts on the next 5 years and see what you're thinking about the future of work and as it relates to these trends. So for the first poll that we'll bring up here for you to answer, and I know Jesper is on that, how is automation and artificial intelligence most likely to impact the size or shape of your workforce in the next 5 years? Reshape, reduce, grow, not sure, not applicable. Okay. So we have almost half saying that it will reshape the workforce, not applicable, a few not applicable, a few not sure, and about 23% say that it will grow. All right, let's go to the next one. So thinking about these trends, which of the following poses the greatest workforce management challenge to you and your organization during the next 5 years? So it will talent management be the greatest challenge, cybersecurity, pay equity, diversity and inclusion, or not applicable? Okay, so that's interesting. We have talent management at 44% and diversity and inclusion at 33%. And those two probably go hand in hand when thinking about diversity and inclusion and also managing the talent and bringing in people with diversity perspectives. So pay equity at 4%, cybersecurity at 10%, and 10% not applicable. Okay. And then again, thinking about some of the trends towards a gig economy, do you expect demand for independent contractors to grow in your organization in the next 5 years? What are your thoughts on that? Okay, so almost half, 49% say yes, and 27% not sure, 5%, 10% no, and 14% not applicable. So thinking about the, the shift towards independent contractors and how that type of work is really going to have an impact on cadence of an organization, with thinking about employee benefits, for example, and the protections that are in place for individuals and organizations. These are things that will need to come into consideration as these trends start to accelerate as we think about the future of work. Okay. And I will go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Renee, who will really talk about the business side.
Thank you, Alicia. Hello, everyone. So nice to be here with each and every one of you. What an amazing piece of work, Alicia. Thank you so much again for sharing that. It really sets the stage for what we're going to talk about next. So just a couple things. So as we looked at the megatrends, now let's look at sort of the business side of the equation, right? And what are businesses going to do, right? So at this point, Alicia, I'll just let you click through. All right, so they really have three choices, right? So the first choice is business as usual and not to do anything. And as we all know, that's probably not an option for most companies at this point. Already as a result of the pandemic, so many have had to change and adapt to just remote working, the technology that needed to be deployed to accommodate their workers, and augmenting staff as workers stepped out of their roles during the pandemic to care for children, things, or family members. It's really turned a lot of businesses upside down and required them to really call upon their contingency plans. And in so many cases, the contingency plans were around physical disasters. I don't know how many were actually prepared for a global pandemic. I think that was probably a bit of a stretch for several, but it's really taken that thinking to a whole other level. Go ahead, Alicia. So really the second phase, the second option for companies are to follow or adapt, right? So it's more about really kind of like either taking a slow roll or a slower approach and seeing where others are going and being a little more deliberative and tentative about which way to proceed. And how can they sort of watch others perhaps test the market, and test certain ways of working, for example, and seeing those impacts and then trying to apply that to their environment. So that's a second position. And then the last position would really be for those that want to lead and innovate and that are really sort of on the edge. And when I think about that, I think about some of the leaders right now, and we've all been united by this global pandemic. The good, the bad, the sad, it's just been so difficult and so challenging on so many levels, individually, for families, for communities, for organizations, right? It truly has connected all of us in so many ways. But when I think of a real life example, I think about Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, when it came to the vaccine, right? No one was truly prepared, but these were companies that sort of embedded in their culture and their business models this innovation, some of the mega skills in terms of talent that Alicia had referred to, that imagination, that creativity, the being open-minded and encouraging their employees to really embrace taking risks and trying things, right? if that hadn't been embedded in their DNA, let's not think about where we would all be right now, because it wouldn't be a very good place. But it's sort of something that allows you to look to those companies and say, how have they sort of taken some of those characteristics and embedded them in their DNA, which sort of leads to, you can keep heading, thanks Alicia, really leads to some of the talent strategies and the organizational development and design strategies that companies deploy in terms of building their organizations, building their workforces, building their culture. And and we'll stick to sort of the pharma references here, just because I think it's most of us can relate, and it's so top of mind for many of us. Really what we're talking about is building this culture around open-mindedness, lifelong learning, and creating environments where employees, workers can truly thrive, right? And they've sort of, as coming out of HR and talent, as Jesper mentioned, I've worked in some rather large global organizations. And, even years ago, we started to plan and prepare for the exiting of the baby boomers, the incoming of the millennials and the Gen Z, and thinking about how do we need to change our culture, the way we work, to sort of embrace this new type of worker that's coming in. And it's sort of interesting. One thing you might want to check out is if you were to go out to the career pages, for example, of like a Pfizer or Moderna or AstraZeneca, you can really see them speaking to the employee in a very different way. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But it connects on a much more deeper and personal level. And you might be saying, okay, Renee, well, how does this all sort of tie together? And it's really started this shift of, in the past, the companies have been very focused on the employer value proposition. So what is it that we offer to our workers, our employees, where this shift is starting to occur around the employee value proposition. Alicia, if you could head to the next slide. So previously, and what's kind of interesting, Gartner's done some really terrific research in this space. And just sort of shout out if you're interested in more research around future of work. Gartner is a great thinker in this space, along with McKinsey. I think we've got the references at the end of the presentation, but just to sort of note that here. So in previous years, right, the employer and the employee were very motivated by financial rewards, compensation, benefits in terms of employers would offer benefits that were sort of a package that worked for the employer. Career growth, as Alicia had mentioned earlier, employees stayed in organizations, some for their whole career. Years ago, the average was 7. To Alicia's point, now it's 5. So we're starting to see that number trend down. We also used to look at physical. So when looking for a job, we looked in our physical locations, right? We didn't always think about working remote or working from somewhere else. Work-life balance for the employee was always of interest, and employers attempted to deliver work-life balance. And company culture, right? Something employers worked to achieve and workers were very much interested in. but not always at the, what's the word I'm looking for? But in a balance, right? So employees and workers were more looking for this whole package. Where now we're starting to see this shift. And I think part of it is due to newer generations coming into the workforce, companies realizing they need to meet those employees where they are. Some of the mega trends and mega skills that Alicia mentioned earlier as well, that are sort of critical skills, if you will, required skills to have these learning types of organizations thrive. So now, coupled with what workers are looking for, really finding meaningful work. It's almost like meaningful work and having deeper connections through work are much more important. Not that financial rewards and compensation aren't, but it's sort of taken almost like a prioritization over it, right? And I think when you look at the trends and couple that with the pandemic and the last year or so, that employees or just people, we've all sort of been left either isolated or with more time to think and reflect. We're seeing shifts in prioritization, right? And these are some of those shifts. So when a worker thinks about going to work, they're thinking about what is the work, right? How does the company value me? How do I connect the value of the organization? What flexibility will I have in my role? Will I be able to job share? Will I be able to work remote? How will companies invest in my personal growth? Not just my career and what I can do for them, but me as a person, as a whole, as that whole person, as Alicia referred to. And then lastly, two other points are sort of this well-being piece and how do I keep myself well and work at the same time? A little bit different than the life balance. I don't think I know anyone who's truly achieved a life-work balance, but really this new sense of well-being. And then lastly, being part of something bigger than themselves. What is the societal connection the organization isn't just sort of attached to? It's not just about the purpose, but it's about the actions that the organizations are taking around that purpose. So years past, it may have been like a mission or a purpose or some values you may have seen painted on a wall or listed on a website. Now it's really about putting those into action, which has this shift sort of moving, moving us forward. And it's really interesting. Gartner did a study, and you can find this on their site in one of their research papers as well, again, listed in the back, that when companies really focus on these deeper connections, the flexibility, the personal growth, being part of something bigger than an individual, they've seen a 15% increase in employee satisfaction. That's pretty powerful, so it starts to, facilitate our thinking again in terms of the way things were may not be good for the way we want things to be. So Alicia, can you take us on? So when you think about this part, right? So how can employers facilitate this human-centric culture, right? The first part, and you kind of hit on some of these in the in the polling questions earlier. So inclusion goals, right? How can companies, sort of facilitate this human-centric culture and bring people together, right? One way is integrating inclusion goals into like day-to-day work and their talent goals right? And sort of weaving it into just the daily fabric of work. Another area is benefits, right? Many times in the past, benefits were, it's a package, you sign up for it, you get it, and there wasn't much flexibility around it. Now, we're seeing more and more companies shifting to like a win-win type of scenario. Benefits that an employee can choose that are also a benefit to the organization. So a little bit more of a customizable approach. We're seeing investments in, and as coaches, this is a great area for us as well, and I'll talk more about this. Helping our managers, teaching our managers to have more empathetic conversations, right? And this is where sort of that some of the coaching skills come in, right? And being present and having some empathy versus perhaps directing conversations with employees. Role flexibility. In this area, we see companies looking at perhaps designing roles to play to the strengths of their employees, or even a job share type model where you may have 2 employees and they have 2 different types of schedules, and together they can manage the work. So we're seeing that sort of come up on the horizon. Some of these companies are also focusing on employee designed development activities. So in the past, where the manager or HR may have been involved with sort of guiding the employee and letting them know what they thought they should focus in on, now the employee is saying, well, here's what I feel like I need to focus in on. And it's sort of creating that accountability and that ownership and that alignment for the person who says, this is, you know, how I want to grow, and this is how I'd like to do it. And organizations are starting to realize that. It's a real shift in thinking. Another area is just the employee well-being. In terms of some of the things organizations can do are really being advocates, having mental wellness champions, right? Making managers aware around the do's and the don'ts of mental wellness conversations and topics. You know, helping employees be accountable for their well-being, right? Creating programs where they can engage with healthcare providers, right? And take ownership of their health, whether it be through some biometric screening or through participation in health coaching and different programs or weight management programs. There's so many programs that are offered these days within organizations. It's really starting to shift, again, more towards what the employee is looking for. And then lastly, just I mentioned it earlier, this shift to the societal issues. And it speaks to some of the megatrends that Alicia had referenced earlier. And when I think about climate change and just migration and shifts in the workforce, these topics are becoming so more top of mind for employees. They want to feel like they're part of something, as I had mentioned earlier. And by organizations sort of creating opportunities for the employee to engage, whether it be in some type of philanthropic activity or corporate social responsibility initiative, or volunteering in something that is of interest to them, they now have those opportunities, which makes this connection between them and the organization even stronger. So now you're probably saying, wow, that's a lot. We've covered megatrends, we've covered some trends from COVID. We've talked about, the future of work. And now let's talk about coaching and how this all ties together. So when I look at this, I think to myself, and it'll be interesting to see, we'll have some, ICF will be having some studies come out shortly. We're doing some research in these areas. But the audience for coaching is not shrinking. If anything, it'll be growing, right? Because as Alicia alluded to earlier, the global megatrends, the drive for these meta skills that are going to be needed, it affects everyone in the system, right? Everyone, if you're a public or a private or a nonprofit organization, there are boards of directors that are involved, so many stakeholders that are responsible for steering and guiding the organization, for engaging the workforce, for driving innovation and creativity. And the audience is sort of, the stakeholders in this audience have just grown, continue to grow. So it's everyone from outside into the organization all the way through to individuals. So the opportunities for coaching really play well into the change that is amongst it's on us right now. It is happening as we're having this conversation, and it will continue to evolve. And as we all know, one of the best ways to support change is through coaching. So with that said, tying it together, here are just some of the applications for coaching that have sort of come to my mind, right? And when I reflect again on megatrends, meta skills, future of work, the impact on the organization, the business themselves, right? We can look at this very holistically because we're talking about a systemic approach to the organization. We're talking about a holistic approach to the individual, and then bridging it all together, right? And how do we make this fit? Right? There are opportunities for career coaching will continue. There will be changes in work. There will be upskilling. There will be reskilling. Alicia alluded to longer workers are staying in the workforce longer, right? Newer generations are coming in. There will be lots of learning, lots of upskilling, lots of reskilling. Lots of opportunities for what I like to call just-in-time coaching, right? That's like the one of the coolest things about coaching. And when you're working with a coach, it's usually when you need it, it's right there, and it helps you sort of facilitate as well as accelerate the change that you need to make in yourself in order to drive that change, whether it's within your family, within your organization, within your community, whatever your role is. So that's, we'll see more of that. Team coaching, right? We are seeing more and more work, right? Especially in our remote roles now. Many of us are remote. I started with ICF just a little over a year ago, had one meeting in person, and that was it. Never met anyone else. Because of the pandemic, and we work as remote teams, but we also work as cross-functional teams. What an incredible opportunity for coaches to come in and again help facilitate and accelerate the collaboration, right, and support the results of that team and what they're trying to deliver. For individuals inside the organization, many organizations now are building coaching networks or peer coaching. Sometimes they're called job plus coaching. It's called differently around the world. SAP, IBM, HP, they're all sort of leaders in this space where they are training individuals to coach. And, they spend a little bit of their time coaching peers, coaching others in the organization. What a great way, again, to sort of facilitate a inclusive, collaborative, supportive culture around all the individuals that are participating in an organization. Then there's the targeted competency coaching. That's sort of what I refer to it. But this is, many times coaches will be hired for a specialty area that they work in. For example, communications or executive presence, or could be strategic thinking, right? Or being creative, or having higher level of EQ. There's a couple different examples. So coaches might be called in to work one-on-one with a group of managers to target a certain skill set. Then there's coaching skills, right? We're seeing here at ICF, and research was done 2 years ago with HCI and ICF on the growth of coaching skills. And we're seeing, we had about 344 HR or L&D leaders and business leaders participate in a study, and they were anticipating an 83% growth in coaching skills in the next 5 years. So again, another way to sort of embed some of the coaching competencies, for example, listening, being present, for managers, leaders, employees to have better conversations, right? And engage on a totally different level. Then, of course, I'll save coaching for change last, but there's wellness coaching and life coaching, right? We're seeing as these trends sort of continue, these shifts occur, this employee value proposition shifts to being more employee and human centric. Companies are looking to embed more wellness coaching, life coaching to support their employees to have the best possible life that they want. So it's so sort of shifted a little bit. In the past, we may have seen employee EAP type of, or employee benefit type programs where there are some types of offerings, but more in a clinical fashion. Now we're seeing a little bit of a shift in bringing in this type of coaching as well. And then lastly, coaching for change, which is sort of the wrapper around our entire conversation today. There is so much change that is upon all of us. Again, whether we're individuals, whether we're part of a community or family or work life, we're watching these trends happen. We're seeing these shifts at work or with our friends and family who are going through it. Change is one thing that we can always count on and will continue, especially in this space for the near future, if not a little bit longer. So with that said, we'll start to, I'll start to close up here. So this is really about partnership with business and coaches. When we think about it, right? This is about bringing us all together in a collaborative effort, right? And help continue to build or create or nurture a growth mindset. Everything we're talking about today is growth, right? It's about change. It's about growing, again, as an individual, as an organization, as a community. And there might be shifts in our thinking and our behaviors that there'll be opportunities to collaborate on. In our work environments, again, facilitating team and collaborative environments, helping those to adapt and manage this change that's around us. As I just said, it is on us right now. It is coming, and it is coming faster than ever. So with that said, I just want to say thank you for listening for a little bit, and like to sort of open it up and hear from everyone and sort of get your thoughts in the session about the session, and sort of what have we shared that has inspired you to do. So if you can drop those in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah, you have questions, then please write them in the chat for the presentation. Questions to Alicia or Renee, what they have presented. And in the meantime, I know it goes for both of you actually. That's what would you say is the biggest challenge or opportunity in the field of coaching at the moment?
Could you repeat the question, Jesper? I'm sorry. I was trying to find it in the chat box.
No, it's not in the chat box. I was just asking. So what you see as the biggest challenges or opportunities in the field of coaching at the moment?
I can take that one, Alicia. I can start that one. It's sort of interesting. In last year, the ICF conducted a global study, and in response in the study was 49% of those that responded felt that the integrity of a coach, right, or individuals representing themselves as a coach that might not be trained or experienced, or perhaps even have a credential in coaching, is probably one of the greatest challenges. And then sort of right behind that, 49% or 28%, I apologize, felt that there's marketplace confusion around coaching. So I think from a coaching perspective, that's sort of one of the biggest challenges that we have in front of us, is really helping clarify, the distinctions between coaches that claim to be a coach, perhaps that haven't been through training, or what expectations the consumer should have around working with a coach. I think there's more opportunities out there around that.
I think there's opportunity to really reach more people with coaching, as we have been shifting to more of this virtual space, and more people are becoming more comfortable with that digital transformation. There's opportunity for coaches to reach more people, and people in different places and from different cultures, to really make those type of connections. So that's an opportunity. And I think another opportunity is thinking about automation or artificial intelligence, and the different platforms that are popping up that will again free up coaches from some of the tasks that can help them and their clients between sessions, to just really get a better understanding of what's happening in between sessions, and platforms that can help collect that data, if you will, or help their clients to do some of the work and accountability in between their sessions. So, freeing up some time to be able to reach more clients by having, again, artificial intelligence and automation as a way to augment coaching and not detract from it.
There are a few questions from the chat. I'd start with Annette Kledal. She asked, what would be the most important coaching skills for coaches to develop and to stay future fit?
That's a great question, and I think it's the most important is to have that growth mindset, right? To essentially be that lifelong learner, to essentially model the talk or walk the talk, if you will. So it starts with that growth mindset. And so coaches should definitely be looking at how they can grow themselves and what learning opportunities that they can engage in. So if I had to pick just one, I would start there. But, I think there's so many great skills that we can call out. I don't know, Renee, if you have any thoughts on that. You're on mute.
Sorry. I was actually thinking growth mindset and, being committed to continuous learning. I think it also from a value proposition perspective as a coach, we want to model the way for our clients. So when they see us investing in ourselves and continuing to grow, it signals that to them too.
Thank you. Krista, did you find other questions?
I think it's quite, hopefully, a very easy question to answer, but we'll see what happens. It's from Adam Bjørn Fjerna, regarding the Gartner study that Renee referred to. Was that US-based or conducted on a more global level?
It was on a global level,
okay.
And it was, I think the name, there's an article, they have an article on their site. I think I have it in the back, make way for the something, I will find it for you, Adam, and put it in the chat. Human-centric employee value proposition. I'll put it in the chat for you too.
Thank you.
May I pose a question in regards to, you were talking about the digital transformation before, a very interesting topic concerning all of us. I mean, you talked about automation, and what is your thought about automation in regards to the coaching process, the coaching session? What could be automated in a coaching session? And would that pose a challenge, or would that be a help for coaches and also business-wise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, some of the automations or applications that are coming out in platforms are the journaling or the note-taking, for example, and that can definitely augment the coaching session as far as just being able to collect data and analyze that data in a way to really look at patterns that could be emerging within a client, but also across clients, and just really thinking about what that looks like. As far as, automation, we could think about, different types of business tasks that can be automated, such as the calendar, right? Calendly is an automation that has freed up some of that manual work of trying to schedule. And so I know many coaches definitely are using that to help in their work. As far as the again, businesses and HR function definitely can use the digital transformation to augment their shift in culture and the shift towards that more of a learning and development culture. And so thinking about, HR leaders and learning development professionals, how that can essentially augment the culture shift change. So we've talked about the digital transformation that is upon us, but we also have to make sure that we're thinking about the cultural shift that is underway, but also the cultural shift that we want to create. And I think that's where coaching essentially is a great resource and tool to help with the cultural shift, to adapt, manage, and navigate these digital shifts.
Thank you. Krista, did you see there's a lot of comments as well?
A lot of comments.
Questions?
There's a question from Christoph Kittel. If you had to choose only one, what would be ICF's top priority as a global organization to meet the opportunities, challenges of the future? What a great question.
I think it would be profession transformation. And really thinking about bringing coaching to the forefront as a profession, and really ensuring that it is an integral part of everyday life, right? And so in order for that to happen, as Renee mentioned earlier, some of the challenges, which is some of the confusion in the market on what coaching is or who is a coach and the training and all of that, I think profession transformation as a priority can really elevate coaching and the significance that it has to society as we think about the transformations that are underway. And as we talked about, change is just a part of everyday life. We're just seeing it at a faster rate. So that would be what I would say ICF's top priority is thinking about profession transformation.
I would echo exactly what Alicia said. Not that we are working on a project that is titled Profession Transformation or anything, but yeah.
I'm just a little biased, Renee.
Right.
So if we may build on this profession transformation, there's one question here I like from Biva Liebman. Do you foresee changes in the way of coaching, new tools, coaching education, etc., that will occur if we're talking of these future trends or profession transformation?
Most definitely. I think, training programs, for example, I think it would be in their best interest and to serve trainees or coaches that are going through their training program to really understand the digital transformation and what's out there and what's available, to make sure that they're at least bringing the different options to the table for coaches to consider. And I think, the training programs play a huge role in the digital transformation space and helping and supporting coaches through that transition as well. So most definitely, that's what came to mind. And I forget the original question, but I was thinking about the role of coach training programs really have an opportunity to contribute to the learning space, if you will, for coaches, and ensuring that they are staying up to date on the technology and what's out there.
Yeah, I agree with Alicia's point. I would probably also add, definitely on the training piece, and I would, as we've sort of just the way of work is going more remote too. I think, and we're seeing, and if you're not aware, ICF has come out with a team specialty credential. We're helping coaches really hone those skills about working with teams, because now work is being much more either remote, dispersed, cross-functional, cross geographies, and helping facilitate teams. Also is just what, that's what came to my mind too. the skills, I mean, the school piece, and then the piece about just working with teams and in remote environments came to my mind as well.
And I think the other piece that comes to mind is supervision coaching, right? And if we talk about lifelong learning of the coach and the role of supervision coaching as part of that, contributing to the growth of coaching, I think that is an area that, again, can also, look to digital transformation for how supervision coaching is delivered and providing more access to coaches who are looking for supervision coaching, as an example. So I think, thinking about the digital transformation and, democratization of digital transformation is definitely a big piece to the puzzle and very important. And that goes back to, the role of responsible AI and how those core human abilities and meta skills are going to be so important to help inform the decision making to ensure that there's responsible AI and that there's access to these resources. So the democratization of digital transformation is going to definitely be important. That will require people to show up and ensure that that's happening.
There's a question here, and let me know if it's off topic. So talking about supervision, Herbert Lundström asked, which coaching competencies will increase in importance regarding the future of coaching? It's okay to say, I don't know.
Well, it's a nice thought-provoking question, because it's hard to pick just one. So, if you pick one, you go down that path versus, I left off the other one. So but I definitely think empathy, right, is going to come to mind, because again, that's a core human ability that, the other skills can help contribute to, right? Being present or listening really contributes to that empathy piece. So I would say, if I had to just pick one, the skill of empathy, or that core human ability of empathy is just going to be important. And part of that is also, again, the curiosity feeds into the empathy, right? And open-mindedness feeds into empathy. So we could probably create a nice visual of how all of these core human abilities essentially come together, which are a lot of them are essentially the what coaching really helps to build, right? It's that reflective capacity, if you will, that coaching is helping people to develop their muscles when it comes to reflection, and that really feeds into the empathy piece. I don't know if you'd choose something different, Renee.
No, I was probably there, and I think ensuring that we're taking that the coach is holding the space for the coachee to have that very holistic and systemic point of view, because I think that's also changing. So I'm like, yes, I was right there with you, Alicia, and then I was thinking more of the and it ties into the empathy and being present, but also standing back and helping or supporting, I guess, the client or the coachee, whatever term everyone prefers to use, to sort of check that the perspective they have is sort of aligned with the future direction, the changes in the organization and has that holistic, systemic view. I don't know if I said that very clear. It was a great question. I was thinking about it. I probably need some more time to think about it, but hopefully that helps.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, sorry.
Go, Krister.
Yeah, I think there was a great question from Bibi Liebman. Do you think the new generations will have an increased demand for coaching to be part of the paycheck? Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I add to that, based on my own experience as coach?
Yeah.
I actually have a couple of companies who are hiring me, amongst other coaches, to offer employees coaching on the same level as they have access to fitness, they get massage, they get the other ones. And it's really on the lower level of employees. It's not managers, it's really for the whole company. So sort of a mental welfare program. And I've experienced it a couple of times. And building on what Bibi says, do you think that's something that will come more of?
Well, I think there's no other option. We have to ensure that there's more of that type of culture, right? That we really shift towards, as Renee mentioned, the learning and development organizations, the learning and development families, the learning and development communities, the learning and development individuals, right? Really shifting to that growth mindset. There's no other option. So, well, there is, but I think if we put out there, if we want the best possible future, then the option is to cultivate that growth mindset in all facets of life.
There's a question here from Michael Skip. You said something about marketplace confusion.
Yeah.
Could you say something more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Michael. Thanks for the question. Yeah, so in the 2020 Global Coaching Study, so you can pull that down, and I can look for the link and put it in the chat for everyone also. If you're a member, there's a summary out there on the website, and there's also the full study is available for purchase. The two areas, and they kind of go together, it was in the same question. So there seems to still, and I'll digress just for a moment here. So I've been a coach for, I'm just going to say, more than 20 years. And I started when I was maybe 12. So I'll just put that out there for everyone who wants to do math. And it's sort of, this has sort of been lingering, and it's there. This 49% of the participants of that survey felt that one of the greatest challenges was the credibility of a coach, like people calling themselves a coach, but maybe they're not ICF, they haven't gone through an ICF accredited training program or hold a credential. And then in terms of marketplace confusion from the consumer side, 28% were saying that, yeah, there's this confusion in the marketplace. And I think some of it is around for the consumer, right? Purchasing coaching. How do I know when I need to call on a coach? And then what type of coach? How do I know when to call on a mentor, right? How do I know when I should be using a consultant, right? And in some places around the world, they all get blended together too, right? So I think better articulating the why it's important, the why of being a trained coach, why being an ICF credentialed coach, being able to articulate those benefits as a coach to a consumer is very important. Helping consumers understand the differences and when to buy and consume which service, I think also helps. From a chapter perspective, because I think this this is really, I think this is a great opportunity for chapters too, right? To help inform consumers of coaching around the distinctions between the various helping professions, if you will, right? And the when to engage. And I also feel like as coaches, if we're contacted for an area that might not be in our toolbox or our sweet spot or our specialty area, making sure we have good referrals, like a good network that we could refer the person that's interested in coaching, find someone that could best suit their needs, whether it may be perhaps it is a consultant or, you know, I think us being sort of almost helping the consumer really clarify and understand what they're looking for, and then how and where to go get it, and then helping them find and access those individuals or those services as well. Does that help, Michael? Or anyone else? You can put it in the chat or.
We have 7 minutes to go. Time flies. Time for one final question. Still some very nice comments. I'm hearing a kind of database that perhaps the individual chapters, depending on size, could manage and use to refer clients. Could be some practical approach for that. And one here is asking, I'm interested in the global hopeful knowledge. Could you tell a little bit more about that? Or is there a summary for that?
The Thought Leadership Institute, we're building a global hub of knowledge on human development and coaching. And so we envision basically building a digital global library that will be open access, free access to, again, because we believe that access to knowledge is access to opportunities. So we will definitely go with the open access principles as we build the digital library. So we are behind the scenes doing all of that work. So stay tuned, more to come as we figure out how we can make this digital library innovative, cutting edge technology in a way that provides access to knowledge and also is engaging and uses, all of the digital transformation that we've talked about, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, automation, analytics, all of the above, to build the global hub of knowledge.
Wow, so that's something to look forward to.
Yes.
For ICF members. Wow, great. Yeah. Just a practical question. Do the attendees get the PowerPoints? I know you have some links and references at the end, and some people have asked about that. So just to assure people that they will get access to it afterwards.
Yes,
great.
We can.
Great. Okay. Krista, what do you think? Should we slowly start ending the webinar?
They are leaving slowly. So if you have saved the question, then I think it's too late.
It's evening in Europe, so that's why. So.
Well, thank you so much, Jesper, Krister, and the Nordic chapters for coming together to allow Renee and I to come together and just share some perspective on the future of work and coaching. And yes, very much an important topic for all of us.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for Alicia and Renee for spending, taking the time. I know they have done a lot of work and a lot of consideration on how this could be useful for us here attending and looking at it. Luckily, we have the allowance to record it, so we will make it accessible so you can revisit it and see it and digest it even more. So a huge thank you to Alicia Hullinger and Renee Robertson for joining. And just before signing off, I just want to say this is a part of a joint project in the Nordic chapters during this week, International Coaching Week 2021. There has been some webinars yesterday. This is for today, and you can see here for the rest of the week. You can go into icwnordic.org and get the full program, and you can sign up for the other webinars. It's all free. It's for everybody. It's not just about coaching, but for everybody who are interested in research and what's going on and what is this coaching thinking about. How can that be helpful? So please go in and sign up. This is an open invitation to everybody interested.